Find product links below and hundreds more videos on my channel.
Hi there guys, welcome back. So first of all I need to say that this is completely unsafe to do. There's no guarantee here that this is going to work. There's no guarantee that this is safe to do. And I'm posting this because I hope it will help someone, because I know a lot of people are having various issues with various stabilizers, and hopefully this will help you figure out how to balance yours and how to fine-tune it. So this isn't a balancing tutorial, this will be a fine-tuning tutorial. I have a balancing tutorial already which applies to almost any sort of stabilizer of this similar design to this, and I'll have a link to that below, and that is recommended to watch before you see this because it's sort of it's the basics to this. So knowing how to, in which direction to push it and stuff. Now I posted a video about how I sort of cleaned and lubricated my stabilizers, and I'll have a link to that below. But this is going to be part 2, where I'm going to show you sort of how to fine-tune the gimbal. And I have to say again, this is very complicated. Once you undo these, it's very difficult to get back into a usable condition again. It is a lot of playing about with it. It took me about 3 hours to figure this out, but hopefully, because that's the time it took me to actually figure it out, it shouldn't take you that long. And this really should be done only with a unit which is actually faulty, and this process will most likely be different for different stabilizers. This is for my Glidecam. This is what worked for me. So basically, we have a few things we need to do. First of all, when I say balance, I mean balance the top, and when I say adjust, I mean adjust here. And adjusting this will also change the balance, but there are two different things that control the balance, and I'll teach you how to see whether the balance issue is here or here. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to take this, and we want to balance it in a way where this is as close to the center of gravity as possible. So we take it and we bring it as high as possible without getting it to flip. So your drop time should be, I balanced it with around a 6-second drop time. This is going to be a little bit faster, but when I balanced it, it was a 6-second drop time. That's what I would recommend to aim for. And the reason for that is, the higher this is to the center of gravity, the better it flies. But that shows more issues with the gimbal. So basically, if you with cheaper stabilizers, you would balance this much lower, because then it sort of hides all the gimbal issues. And so here we want to adjust those gimbal issues, and that's why we're balancing this in a way that is as close as possible to a with as long of a drop time as possible. So these are going to be as high up as they can be without the whole thing flipping over completely. So what we want to check first is we want to see that this is balanced. So the way we do that is, and by the way, don't ask me how I actually got this figured out. I have no idea. I literally just kept trying different stuff, and this worked really well. So what we want to do is we want to first make sure that this is correct, and then we'll start adjusting the gimbal here. And once we've, you might want to sort of slightly release these bolts, but you don't have to. First of all, we can make sure that this is adjusted. So, and I'll teach you now the way that you tell where the issue is coming from as well. So first of all, let's say it's tilting this way, and obviously we don't want it to tilt that way. So what we do is we flip it around, and if it remains in the exact same place, then you have no issues whatsoever with your gimbal. Then your gimbal is perfect, and you want to adjust it from the top here. If, when you flip it around, it goes the other way, your issue is here. And what we want to do is, first of all, get this balanced. If we have issues here, we first get this balanced, and it's very difficult to get balanced because you can't get it in the center. That's obviously the issue. We can't get it perfectly in the center. And I didn't actually explain this, but the issue for most people is that you balance it perfectly like this, and then you spin it around, and it moves. So that's the issue we're trying to handle today, mainly. So you first of all balance it so that it's as close as you can get it. But then what you want to do is you want to get it like this. Let's say this is the problematic place. Don't balance it to the center. Balance it halfway in between where it shouldn't be and where it should be. So that would be there. And a more extreme example is if you end up with something balanced like this, then, and obviously what you want is this, bring it to there. That's very important. You want to balance it from up here so that it's there, halfway in between, as close as you can get halfway in between where it needs to be and where it was, where it wants to naturally go. Then you flip it around and it will want to go the other way. And you just let it see, see where it goes, and it'll probably end up somewhere there. And then you bring it halfway, only halfway, in between where it should be and where it was. And you keep doing that, and eventually what you'll end up with is that you flip it around and it does something like this, and then you flip it and it ends up the exact same distance on the other side of where it should be. That's when you know the top is balanced. Now we can sort of try and adjust the gimbal. So again, it's going to be not centered. So obviously there's an issue there with the gimbal. So it's not going to be centered, but you want to bring it to the point where it's the exact same distance here as when you flip it around and it ends up at the other side here. Same distance from the center, from there to the center and from there to the center. Hopefully that makes sense. And you do that on both directions. So both, let's say, sort of this way and that way, and also this way and that way. So there's a lot of playing about with that. So unfortunately, it's a very time-consuming thing. And okay, so now we have it balanced so that it ends up the same on both sides. So it ends up there and it ends up there, but obviously not perfect in the center. And then when you have, again, not perfect in the center, because that's the issue here. The issue is that when it's in the center, you spin it round and it goes way too off sideways. So then now you know this is balanced. Now we start adjusting this. So here we undo these 4 screws. And just so you know that once you undo these 4 screws, it's very difficult to get back into perfect condition. So if it's already pretty good, don't play with it. If it is faulty, then I guess there's no harm in undoing it and trying. But like I said, you got to, I have no guarantee this is safe. So you undo these, and undo them just a tiny amount, only so it's enough for this to slide around, but you don't want them loose. You just want them sort of undone enough for this to be able to move. And the way this is connected is you have the bottom plate attached to this, and the top plate attached to this. So what we want to end up with is we want to end up with this top plate perfectly in the center of the bottom plate. And the easiest thing to do is to simply adjust them with your fingers so you feel they are as near perfect as possible. With me, that got it to almost a really good position, but not perfect. So for me, not perfect isn't good enough. And so then after I did that, I really had to go and fine tune it. And that's done in this direction, sort of from there to there. It's done with a little Allen key. I have no idea what size this is, but you just, I guess you'll just have to get a kit or something and then just try the different sizes. So that goes into there, and there's these things on both sides. And the way that these things work is that well, these are little screws that push the top plate. So this way, when you turn this clockwise, it will push the plate that way. And you do have to, and you don't want to do that too tight. You want to make sure that the other side is loose, so counterclockwise on the opposite side, and then you can push from this side using a clockwise turn. And these are very, very fine turns, very small. I mean, I literally did this in like that much and then that much, literally just like 1/5 of a turn or less, sometimes 1/20th of a turn, just little tiny little movements until and then checking balance in between each one. So in that direction I had these two to adjust, and on the left-right direction I didn't. So with direction from there to there, I had to just sort of do it with my fingers and tap it and try and get it perfectly in the center, and that was even more difficult. And basically the way that you adjust it is if it's tilting that way, you push the top plate this way. So let's say if it's tilting like that, then I would loosen the little screw on this side and then push this little screw inwards a little bit. And that pushes this top plate. I could also do it with my fingers, by the way. If you prefer, you can adjust it with your fingers and then just lock these screws at the end. But I found that the screws actually help. And then from this way to that way, unfortunately, you just have to do it with your fingers. So that's the main part of it. Once you get it perfectly in the center, be very careful when you lock these top screws down, which, by the way, they are this thing, a little star screwdriver. And, you know, these are available in most toolkits and stuff. And so for me, that worked really well. I managed to get this balanced even better than it was from the factory. And from the factory, it's been the best I've ever seen. And yeah, I got it even better than that somehow. I mean, but it took me around 3 hours to figure this out and then balance it. So, again, do this at your own risk. And hopefully this has helped someone. By the way, when you close it down, you want to really make sure that you do it very gently, just tiny bit by tiny bit. And another thing is that when you're balancing this here, you do not want to tilt it because it will go completely out of alignment. You have to start again. So once you've loosened this up and started adjusting it, then don't tilt it. And by the way, you may have to sort of go a little bit back and forth between this and that. So you do this as well as you can, then you go to this and adjust that as well as you can. And then don't tighten it up, and then just leave it loose and just sort of adjust this a tiny bit and then go back to this a tiny bit. And again, this is a very complicated thing, but hopefully, you know, you'll be able to do this if you really need to. And yeah, I hope this has helped someone. So, alright guys, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.